So I said this years ago, and I heard the founder of Duolingo say the same thing. I'd rather have a hole than an a-hole. And I thought I invented it, but apparently he said it first. But he was more public. I heard him say it in a podcast recently.
Hi, everybody. It's Lorne Rubis, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Dave McCauley. How are you, David?
I am fully functional, Lauren. How are you?
Kind of semi-functional, but we're here to talk about Culture Talks, where we explore things that are going on from the world of organization, culture, and leadership. And gosh, it's so fun to be hanging out with you. We've known each other for a long time.
We're not going to talk about the time, Lauren.
Yeah, I know, but we have kind of been on every side of every corporate C-suite role, and we've experienced a lot of different things, and hopefully we can bring that experience and fun that we've had into the laps of our audience. And we're gonna. So before we get
Hopefully,
going,
yeah.
what's going on? Are you getting ready for the 4th? Are you guys you doing anything special for the holiday?
Nothing too special. We're gonna play it close to home. You know, the dogs don't like the fireworks, so we're gonna hang out with the dogs. Maybe have a barbecue with some friends and neighbors, that kind of thing. But nothing too crazy. Just kind of stay home. We were on the road last week to go see one of my boys, and it's nice to be home. So
Yeah, you
it'll be
bet.
good. It'll be good.
Well, no, here's one of the great things about you and I, Dave, is that because I get to celebrate July 1st as a holiday, but because I'm also an American citizen, I also get to celebrate the 4th.
Wow,
So
you get the
we get
tour.
I know I get 2 Thanksgivings. I get, oh man,
Have you
it's
thought about becoming French as well? Because then you
I
get
should.
Bastille Day, and then you get
I know. I could maybe get, I could go for some heat. I could go to Paris and get 40 degrees Celsius or 112 degree
Oh
Fahrenheit.
man, it's been crazy. We were
I
there a couple of years ago during Bastille Day. It was beautiful. We were in Lyon when all the fireworks were going off on the bridge and everything. It was fantastic. It was so cool. They did a
I
great.
know Lyon. Lyon is one of I had an office in Lyon for a while. I know I used to go there all the time. And every time that they knew I was coming because I was the CEO of this company, like I had this, they always, treat you. There's no when we would have like a takeout in Lyon
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
during our meetings, it was like a spread, like it was like it's called,
Well, Lyon is like the food capital of France.
it is. I'll tell you what, and you gotta like eating a lot of different body parts. Like, I mean, it's not
Nothing goes to waste. Nothing goes
nothing
to waste.
does.
Would Monsieur like the lips? Here are the lips.
Well, anyway, those are kind of the fireworks we're gonna have are here on this podcast. And I want to start by talking about an article that Adam Grant, who's the well-known professor from the University of from Wharton.
Yeah.
He's written a lot of great stuff. I have my MBA classes and my Harvard classes, read his books, and but the thing about Grant is he's always very research driven, but he has a way of translating it into the practical world.
Yeah.
But he and a couple of his colleagues, a very interesting article in the New York Times that I thought you and I would talk about.
No, that's great. I listened to his podcast, and he's very affable, and he's really good at taking the data and the information and helping you understand what does this mean pragmatically,
Exactly.
and what can you do, or what should you do, or what does this tell you?
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the podcast. So
Yeah. So I want to the idea of remote slash hybrid work, where and how people do work, Dave. That's a topic that's really been something dear to me. Like I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with it. And I think it's really is intertwined with how people feel about the organization they work for. But just for our audience, the premise, if they hadn't had a chance to read the article, is that their research, and they did extensive research on this, was that the primary driver behind why people ask people back into the office is primarily narcissism. It's like, I need to see all the people around me to make sure that I'm,
well, how do I
they're
know I'm important unless somebody outside tells me I'm important?
that's kind of the story. I know that's a harsh statement. I mean, And Grant and his researchers are much more elegant around describing that. But they did it from Fortune companies right through, and they did a lot of research to reinforce that the ego is so much behind this. And I wanted to get your reaction to it. What did you think about the article?
So I thought the article was great, and it affirmed a lot of my experience. So pre-COVID, I've had remote workers, and I've worked remotely for probably 15 years. Like, the COVID thing wasn't that big a change for how you manage, and well, it changes how you manage and how you lead. But ultimately, I've had folks working remotely for years, and so it wasn't really that big a massive change from my experience. The best thing I'll say is I'm actually having the reverse problem. When folks are working remotely, I have to not chastise them, but follow up with them. If I get a response at 2 in the morning or a report at 3 in the morning,
Yeah, yeah.
and because it's hard when you're working remotely to know when to turn off, because a lot of folks will leave their computers up. They'll hear a ding on their Slack or Teams, and they'll feel like, oh, I have to respond. And it's actually, I've had to coach people on when not to respond, how to turn off their notifications, how to stop engaging, because there's life outside of work, and so I've had almost the reverse problem in helping to manage their time. It's kind of been the opposite. My experience also is, so we buy companies and we sell companies. I'm in private equity, and sometimes I can tell which ones of the CEOs hate remote working almost the very few minutes that we start to talk, because I want to walk by their desks, and I want to
Yeah.
see them, and I want to know what's going on. And collaboration, I don't know if we can cuss on this thing, but the whole notion that this fosters collaboration is complete bullshit. I mean,
Yeah, it did cuss for sure.
y-
The Reddit banter was essentially where, I mean, you can't bullshit people. I mean, they know it's a trust issue mostly. And of course
100%.
there's
It's always
yeah,
about trust. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So the story for me was, Dave, is that when I got to be the chief people officer of a financial institution, we had 5,000 people. It's 2012. And so it was early days, well before the COVID
Yeah.
situation. And I was really influenced by this book that came out about the couple of women who wrote this book about their experience at Best Buy. And they talked about how crazy it was around how people, and I went to a conference in Toronto. I heard this presentation. It really got me thinking about at Best Buy, they had strategies where people in their office, they would have 2 sets of coats, and they would have a coat to wear home and a coat to hang over their
So it looked like they
cubicle.
were busy. Yeah. So they look like they were
Exactly.
there. Yeah.
So if they left early, they would leave their other coat there hanging there,
Yeah.
so people would think, well, they're still around, and all this elaborate craziness. But anyway, we introduced in about 2013 a, work from where you need to, when you need to policy.
Yes.
The whole place almost went crazy. Like, I mean, to begin with, I had people call me, other CEOs and CPOs call me, "Are you nuts, or what are you doing?" And it ended up being a massive part of distinguishing. And one of the real finishing touches for me, and I'll tell the story real quickly, is that wanted to hire a really, really capable woman who was coming off maternity leave.
Okay.
And she said to me, "Look, I'd like you to pay me less, but I just want the flexibility to work a little bit differently. I want to be able to come in about 9 o'clock, and I'd like to leave about 3:30, unless I've got, really important meetings at
Right.
either end. And then I'd like to work at night." And she says, "Pay me 75." And I'm going, "No, I'm not going to do that, because I know you're going to work 100%. You just want flexibility." And when we provided this opportunity in the bank for people to work where they needed to, when they needed to, and how they needed to figure it out. I mean, if you're working in a branch and the branch opens at 9 o'clock, you got to be there. You can't say, "I'm going to work from home," right?
8:45. You got to be there 8:45. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's not the issue. Anyway, it was a fundamental part of distinguishing our culture. And, I've been gone now since 2018, and that continues to be the way they work. And it's a big, big, massive advantage. And I just wanted to get your reaction to, like, why would a company like say to all their people, "You've got to come back. Everybody's got to come back, I mean, to the office." I mean, and how disruptive that is.
Well, I don't. They probably have their reasons for it, and it probably makes sense in whatever way they're justifying it. But I don't understand it, only because I've seen the benefit of treating people like adults And I expect them to trust me, so I have to trust them. And as long as they're performing and getting their work, I mean, it's a loss of empathy. Like in the days when we had to sit in cubicles, Lauren, I remember sitting and going, okay, I'm done with all the work I got to get done today. I'm ahead on these projects, and my next meeting isn't for 3 hours. I got some errands I want to run. I've
Right.
got some things I want to get done, but I can't because I have to sit in my cubicle in case somebody walks by and wants to know if I'm there or not. And I know I'm going to work a couple extra hours in the evening anyway. So it just didn't make sense to me when I was there. And so as soon as possible, I try to look, you're an adult. I'm going to treat you like an adult. And unless your work is one of those that is, okay, we need somebody to answer the phones from 7 in the morning to 11 in the morning. And so we expect you to be online able to answer the phones. Those are the only jobs that we say, here's your hours and this is what you have to work. You have one of those requirements. Now, are you at home? Are you in the office? I don't care. I just want to make sure the phone's answered and you have the tools necessary to be able to provide the support that you need. I've got support guys all over the country right now, and we ship them all of our hardware, all of the potential hardware they're going to connect to so they can troubleshoot on their own. So they'll have the little laboratories inside their offices at home so they can work from home. I don't need them to come into the office to access some tool. Let's just get them the tool. And so I'm getting more out of we have reduced cost simply because we don't have to hire by letting folks work when they need to work and when they feel like they have a problem to solve that they want to work on. And again, my biggest problem is the work getting done. My biggest problem is I need them to take a break because they will
Right.
burn out. And I don't I'm more worried about the team burning out. But that gets back to company culture, that gets back to how you set expectations, that gets back to how are you managing people and holding people accountable and knowing, okay, we're going to reward you. And, if things are going wrong, let's talk about what's going wrong. But
Yeah, and I there's a little self-accountability there too. Like, I'm a little less anxious than maybe on this burnout issue in this context
yeah,
because, I'll go back to this story about Michelle that I was gonna hire. A lot of times I would see stuff coming from Michelle at 11 o'clock,
yeah,
but Michelle went home at 3.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? She could rock it out from, like, 9 to 11, and now, I think when people are get carried away, they can't turn off their notifications, and I think they've got a bigger issue. Like,
yeah,
I mean, there's a self-accountability look, if I'm gonna give you the accountability to go get shit done at home and or in whatever combination that makes sense for a thing,
yeah,
and you get the results, and you decide you're gonna wanna get up because you can't sleep and work at 2 o'clock in the morning, fine, go ahead.
yeah,
But I'm not gonna babysit you because you can't turn your notifications off.
yeah. Well,
You know what I mean?
I will ask. I'll ask. Is
Yeah,
there
and
a
that's fair. What I don't like is when leaders think that people are on 24/7.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That I
yes,
think is a different kind of thing. It's like, I had to respond because Dave wrote me a note and asked me to think about Dave got up at 10 o'clock, or was that 10 o'clock? He was thinking about something. He texted me, and therefore I've got to immediately respond. And I think that's a lot of nonsense.
and I just took on this role as CEO of one of our portcos, and I have to because I'll wake up. I'm an early riser. I'm up at 4, and sometimes I'll go. I just had a thought about this thing, and I will start the email or the Slack message with, "Please don't respond right now. I need you to take your time,"
Right,
and then I'll write my little
right.
diatribe of whatever the heck craziness I was thinking.
Yeah,
But you kinda have to set that tone that my
I think that's right.
expectation isn't that you're gonna answer
Right,
within 2 seconds. It is me just
right.
spewing my thoughts because it was convenient for me.
100%. And if you've got a crisis, like, then on the subject line, you go, "Hey, I need urgent right now." You know what I mean? But those don't happen very often, right? I mean,
No, no, and it's
hey,
usually them who they're dealing with the real issues,
yeah,
and they're the ones who have the crisis, and then,
yeah,
that's absolutely right. I'm you set the tone, and that tone, you have to be conscious of the tone you're setting. You can't
yeah,
just say, "Oh, I'm just gonna spew this and send this out there." You have to be conscious, how are the people that work for me going to respond to this, and are they gonna think that I'm expecting them? Because folks read in between the lines, right? Oh, he sent this at 10, so that means I've got to be available at 10. That means I've got to be, and you want to make sure it's clear. You don't have to respond right now. So
yeah,
that's you got to be conscious about that.
yeah. So, I wanna transition here around the collaboration innovative side for a minute, but I wanted to say one other thing about a couple of stories. These stories have been going on. One of the great companies in North America is PCL Construction. They're across North America, mostly in the West, but they started in Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, wow. Of course they started in Canada, Lawrence.
Yeah, well, but John Poole, who was the P of PCL, he was notoriously hard-nosed guy, and he would want to like his engineers working on Saturday morning, right? So what the guys used to do is they used to come into the parking lot and park their cars in the Poole, at that time was Poole Construction parking lot. Their wives would come by, and typically wives in that case or partners, but this is in the early 60s, in their other car,
And pick them up.
and
You
pick
take
them
them.
up and take it to the grocery shop and do whatever they're going to do, but leave the car there. Because John would drive. He wouldn't go to the office. He would drive and see because he knew everybody's cars. But, fast forward to 2021 or 22 after post-COVID or whatever the time was. This is a large pharmaceutical. I'm working with them. One of the things in their laboratories and their manufacturing facilities for vaccines is there's analysts. And the best way analysts do the work is quietly. They
Yeah.
take all the data and they do it quietly. And many of them are really good quants and they work the best from home. But the VP of operations comes on, gives a video from his home office, by the way, and says, "You're all going to come back to work. And I want every one of you back into the office because of the manufacturing guys have to be in the office making the vaccines. You all have to be there." Many of them, like they're all, high capable quants. Now they're going to get on the freeway in near Philadelphia and drive for an hour and a half to get in so they could go and close the door, plug in and do their analysis. And that's just, I mean, these are crazy, crazy stories
Oh,
that
yeah. Oh, yeah.
all in the spirit. So in this case, I think they make up a story that somehow people are going to be more innovative or collaborative, but it's trust. That's what it is.
It boils down. We have a company here, Micron Technology, that the former CEO, he passed away. The stories are he would be in the parking lot at 5:30 in the morning every morning, and he would keep track of everybody's car and what time they came in. And this is thousands and thousands of employees in this company, manufacturing. But if you were an executive, you had to be there around the same time that Steve got there. And
Yeah.
so, and when he left, he would make a note of whose cars were in the parking lot.
Yeah.
What still after he left.
Yeah.
And it was just a game.
It's a game.
And people start gaming it.
Exactly.
I had friends who would leave a half a cup of coffee and an open laptop in their desk, in their office. So it looked like I'm going to be back here in a second. I just went to the restroom or whatever, just in case Steve would walk by.
Oh, man, I know.
And
It's just the crazy stuff. I mean, and I'm going to segue to the collaborative bullshit thing around.
it is
So,
I'm sorry. It's
look, I think if you're going to, let's say, Dave, you've got a company that they're trying to create a new piece of software, then you need to sprint and you need to have people working together. And I do think you have to have like intentional kind of, collaborative stuff. But the idea that I'm going to run into you outside the taco stand and you and I are somehow going to invent the new platform is just crazy. I mean, this one particular situation, I know where this guy, he goes, it takes him hours to get to work, leaves his family, and he goes in and he plugs in and the first thing he does, gets on a Teams call with a bunch of people that are elsewhere. I mean, think about that, because he's got colleagues in New Jersey or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I mean, it's like I had to leave home to go into the campus so I could connect with other people in other campuses
Who
by
aren't even
Teams.
here? Yeah.
And and it's or think about all the collaborations going on when you walk by a lot of these development areas. Like everybody's plugged in. There's no, I mean, you need to put intentionality behind it if you're going to have it. You can't just say, "I got them all back in the office. They're all going and they're running into the coffee shop and they're over a latte. They're blah 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 blah." Well, there will be some of that. I grant you, but that not to force this incredible kind of craziness that's
Yeah,
going on.
more often than not, those things happen ad hoc. Where I had a database architect, brilliant guy. lived in Montana, and he goes, "I get my best ideas in the shower. I have a waterproof recorder in my shower." So, and he would record in his shower so that when he had the ideas, and then his team, he had guys in India, Alaska, Idaho. He was in Montana, and they would go, "Okay, we got to get together, guys. We got to get together." And they would plan, when are they going to get together and where are they going to get together? And then they would say, "Okay, here's my idea, here's my thoughts, here's what's
Right.
going on." And prior to the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting, their Slack channel was blowing up. Like,
Yeah, that's a great story, and that's intentionality behind that, right?
yes, yes.
Okay. All right. We are gonna be like the Dave Portnoy of culture.
God.
They're the pizza rating guy.
Yes.
We're gonna start that. It's gonna be McCauley Rubis culture rating, and we'll do it with individual companies, but right now we're gonna do a broader one on a
I thought we
policy.
were gonna look at pizza because
Well, we can do that too.
I'm a New
Okay.
Yorker, best pizzas from New York. I'm sorry.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, thank you.
No doubt about it. I had a pizza the other day that was anyway, I won't anyway, but we wanna become the so in this case, though, we're gonna rate companies that deserve a 5. So, if you were to give the at work policy, what elements would you give to a company that you think they would deserve a 5 star, and what would be part of it?
So I like the rules or the rules. I like the framework that you came up with when you were at the financial group. Just
Yeah.
the work when you want, work when you have to. What I forget how you said it. How did you say it?
Yeah, it's where it's work on what you need to do, where you need to do it, when you need to do it, and of course, that requires a lot of self accountability because when you're working with teams and people show up or customers, but that's the essential policy. We trust you. And by the way, no results, no job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you said initially was the very first thing that you look for is we trust you.
We trust you.
And if that isn't at the foundation, if you haven't set the tone that trust is a non-negotiable inside this organization, then everything else cascades off of that, right? And
You
if
know,
trust is at the center, then all the rest of this becomes just project based. Where do we want to be? What are the objectives we're trying to achieve? Who else do you need on your team? The other thing that I've had to reflect on is it's one thing to be supportive and collaborative with each other, but you also have to be open to asking for help. And so
100%.
one of the things that I now do in the job interviews when I'm setting the tone is we expect you to ask for help. And we know you don't know everything, and we really need you to engage with the rest of your team because you never know who has the right answer for the question that you might have. We don't expect you to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining. We expect you to be open with challenges or issues or problems that you're running into that you need. So I'm looking for questions asked, issues run into, no matter how weird or obtuse they are, and then engagement into help support and collaborate with one another.
Yeah.
If you're asked for support, you give support.
Yeah, I completely agree, Dave. I think if I had to, come down, like I think in the article, so I'm going to recommend that if you, I know there's a
Oh, we should put
paywall
the
behind it.
link. We should put the link in
Yeah, let's put the
the
link up there. But there's a paywall behind the New York Times. It's really worth a read. And Grant gives some other kind of criteria. One is that be intentional. Like if you have anchor days where people do come in, make it worth their while to come in. Or there are times when you need to just have everybody together or that kind of stuff.
well,
But be intentional.
back to the anchor days. So we've got portfolio companies that have specific anchor days, and I do more of a fluid anchor day. So I let the teams choose. Like, okay, it's going to be Tuesday or it's going to be Thursday. And some weeks it's no days, and in other weeks it's 3 or 4 days. But we plan that out consciously, 3 4 weeks in advance. We try to say,
Yeah,
okay, here's when we're.
exactly.
But this has got the 4th of July holiday coming up. We've got 3
Right.
people's birthdays. So and so's had about to give birth. Let's not do it this time. We'll move it out to this time. But we do have anchor days, but they're fluid. They're not like
Yeah.
every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, whatever. We try to make it fluid.
Yeah. So I'm going to give the ones first of all. If you have a one size fits all policy and you just say our policy is everybody must do this, you get a 1 because or a 0. I completely agree. Like if you just everybody's got to come in. And if you confuse equality with equity, then you've got craziness
So,
because
so Lauren, if let's pretend I'm a one. Let's pretend I'm a
yeah,
one or a zero.
yeah.
What if I'm somebody who works in that organization? How do I tell my boss you suck? I mean, oh, sorry, but you're there's a better way to do this because that is sometimes when you're a zero or one, if it really is driven by, as Adam Grant says, it's narcissism, a sense of I need to have control, fear-based, distrust. How do we inspire those folks to have a moment of self-reflection that goes beyond maybe this
Ugh,
isn't the right way to do it, or is
uh,
this really like one of those environments where you got to say, okay, I can do this for a couple of weeks until I get my next job, or
yeah, I'm afraid to say, look, I'm a little worried about it. I'll tell you why I'm worried about it. If you're doing it for ego, and I'm going to use the Calgary environment, the petroleum club environment, oil and gas business, and if I go to the petroleum club to have a ribeye with my buddies,
yeah,
the other CEOs, and they're all leaning back on, we don't let those efforts come. They got to come into the office, baby, because it's pretty hard to make. I mean, you got to have a real sense of conviction. It's the best way to run your business. You're going to get the best people, the best outcome, the best results, the best performance. I'm worried that if that tone isn't set from the top, then you and I having a conversation about it, Dave. And you're my boss, and you're a director, and you work for the VP here, and then I'm going, Dave. I think I could do the job better if I had a little bit more flexibility. I'm worried that the director is going to say something like, "Oh, Dave, I really agree with you, but my hands are tied."
yeah,
And I honestly, I don't want to give false hope to people. I think you've got to find an environment where, and I know that's hard because look, I'll tell you what. I mean, it's easy to say that if you're in the tech business right now and you're working for one of the big tech companies, they've all asked you to come into the office. It's not that you're going to go. I think I'll quit my $400,000 a year job today and go because there's no other jobs. So there's a reality to it. But I do think at the fringes sometimes there's a little flex, like where you go, look, I think if I had a chance to do this from home, I could do it better. I think there's a little room at the fringes. I think peck away at the fringes without putting your boss in a situation where they're blatantly having to, you know, cross the policy
yeah,
because there's a little bit of room at the edges. But and then hope like hell that we kind of evolve from this over a period. I think we will.
yeah,
I think the Morgan Stanleys, the Jamie Dimons, who and the Andy
yeah,
Jasseys,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
frankly, I think these guys will
Like the
dissolve.
dinosaurs, it's like the dinosaurs, right? You kind of have to wait for this generation to pass
I think so.
before you can
Yeah,
really make
yeah.
that change.
So those are the ones. And by the
I
way,
was
I
hoping
think
you'd have some magic because
I gosh, and I wish I could tell you that. Although if there have any kind of listening going on and that it evolves up, at least the debate would come up a little bit
yeah,
more.
yeah, fair.
But I'm afraid that you've got CPOs that are into patronizing and they're going like, no, let's put an air tag on everybody. You know what I mean? Are they going in the wrong direction? Dave's not on. He's,
Oh yeah, we have. Well, you see all these things on Reddit where these guys have built their mouse because they have these monitoring devices or software that sits on your screen and they
yeah,
can see if your mouse is moving. And so
yeah,
these guys have all got this little cottage industry of how to keep your mouse moving while so it looks like you're still engaged. And and that's the whole problem with that type of focus. You are creating layers and layers of things you have to manage, things you have to pay attention to, things you have to document that are truly just associated with, I don't trust you. I mean,
exactly.
that's entirely all it is. I don't
Yeah,
care. Just get to the end result. And if you can get to the end result faster at home than in the office, then stay home. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And look at the other side of it. If you're not self accountable and you're out working 3 jobs and you're the Lyft driver while you're trying to develop code, well, you know what? You're going to get fired, or
yes.
you should get fired. I mean, that's just I don't have any room or tolerance for people that are not bringing value either.
Yeah.
If you think you're scamming the organization home and you're screwing the man, get out. We don't need you. We
Yeah,
don't
and
want you.
and
Fuck
honestly,
off.
Warren, you and I both know from experience, if somebody's behaving that way, it will show up.
Yeah, it
It
will.
it shows up over time eventually. People will be who they are, and you just it takes time and it'll show up.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
don't wanna manage your 1,000-person company because of one really bad behavior, and then all of a
Exactly.
sudden screw up the other 999
Exactly.
people. That drives me crazy. And I have heard this with, well, what about new hires? What about brand new people who we really need to get them associated with our organizational culture and get them, you know, there are times where I've had people fly into the home office for their first couple, days of training,
Yeah.
but not weeks, not months. You're there
You're
for a few days if it's necessary. But I'm training 3 people right now who are all remote, and their bosses are figuring out how to train them. They've done this before.
You
It's
know what, Dave? The real issue there is exactly what you're talking about. It's the idea is that there's a lot of data there. In fact, Grant has some in that article. And when I was at Google, they knew that if you really got connected with your leader for the first month or so, and you really had some success, your future success was likely to be
exactly.
so. But that's intentionality putting development. It's not like come into. Do you know how many stories I hear where people come into the office the first week? It's like no one was there to get him. My boss was
Yes,
on
my
vacation.
laptop doesn't work. I can't
My
even log in.
exactly,
I'm I mean,
so
I'm in a cubicle filling out HR paperwork.
yeah,
I got done in 30 minutes and I don't see anybody else for 2 hours. So I'm on my phone. I'm doing, it.
yeah, I
Well,
know.
guess what? Guess what, Lauren? I'm learning about your culture. I sure as heck am learning about
Yeah,
your culture.
I know, it's unbelievable. Okay, Dave, we're gonna segue now
Sorry, go.
to the leadership section, and the theme of this podcast is the brilliant jerk.
The
The
brilliant
brilliant
nerve.
jerk. The brilliant jerk. And I so I wanna just set the context because it kinda relates to the self-accountability issue a little bit, but but the idea is and here's the story that really is coming home for me, and it's a hockey story, and I wanna be careful about it, but it's like the Edmonton Oilers deciding to hire a coach who is regarded as a hard ass, hard nosed, structured coach. On the hockey side of X's and O's is brilliant, but there's been a historical pattern, well documented. I mean, I'm talking about documented for decades of mistreating people, from players to equipment managers to people in the office. I'm talking about abusive. I would call that in the category of the brilliant jerk.
Yeah.
Now, would you and you're running a company now, you've run lots of them, you've been around it. Let's say I'm your sales manager and I'm going, Dave, we're not getting any results in this particular area. And I'm gonna hire so and so from over here who gets numbers. Now, terrible reputation, all kinds of things, shady a little bit, little tricky, is hard on production, makes promises that they can't. But if you want the numbers, Dave, and you've been pushing me for numbers, I'm hiring that person. And there's going to be some downfall, and I just want you to protect me for the downfall. But you've been pushing me for the numbers, baby, and I'm going to get brilliant over here. But we're going to put up with some jerk-like behavior, and I want your permission to do it.
So I said this years ago, and I heard the founder of Duolingo say the same thing. I'd rather have a hole than an a-hole. And I thought I invented it, but apparently he said it first. But he was more public. I heard him say it in a podcast recently. But so actually, the company that I'm running now, when I was involved a couple of years ago, their top sales guy was an a-hole, and they were afraid to get rid of him because he was the only sales guy producing. But every single one of his deals was questionable. And in some of the cases where he says he's closed a deal, he forged the signatures of the customer for those
Wow.
customers had no idea what the heck are you doing. And so I would rather have somebody who's a great fit organizationally, is not going to cause any fallout, is not going to cause any sexual harassment issues, is not going to cause any professional issues between teams. I'd rather have somebody who's well behaved and not going to cause those issues than have somebody who is going to cause those issues and they might sell more or might perform better or might do more. The challenge is most of us end up, so we acquire companies, and 9 times out of 10 there are a-holes who we acquired a company a couple of years ago where the software was really run and managed and created by this guy who was a horrible human being, but he had all the keys to the kingdom. And so we had to have somebody come in from outside to do some forensics on the code that had been written. Had to have, so it took time, but eventually we helped. We managed him out.
Yeah.
because that behavior, here's the thing, the conversations or the issues that you're struggling to deal with are the results you're choosing. So if you're not dealing with it, you are advocating for those results. And what we saw with that sales rep was other sales reps were starting who weren't behaving that way, were complaining or leaving, or somebody started cheating the same way this guy was cheating.
And that's what I worry about, Dave,
And it
is that pretty soon some people will leave and you'll lot of have a good talented leave, but people will, particular people that are can be influenced will go, well, that's the way we do it here. And pretty soon they start doing things like that. Well, did you hear that so and so just forged the signature on thing? Look, customers don't care. They didn't know what they wanted. We were just doing them a
I got my
favor, really.
commission. I got my commission, and numbers
Yeah.
look good. Numbers look great.
Numbers
Yep.
look good. And I just, in my inbox right now from someone I really care about, this person's asking advice on how to deal with a boss that's a jerk. But the boss is brilliant at managing up. They take
Cool.
credit for all the stuff. They are just exceptional politicians.
So I had a guy I worked with when I first came here to Idaho, and he was to his peers and folks reporting to him. He was a director.
Right.
His to his peers and the people that reported to him, he was just took credit, same as you're telling me. Took credit for everybody's work. Would undermine you in every meeting. Would undermine people when they weren't present. But man, he was so good at putting his nose in people's colons. I mean, he was great at managing up. He was so good at kissing ass. Everybody thought, oh my God, all the C-suite was like, oh my gosh, this guy is just so good. He's so fantastic. Look at what he's doing. And he was horrible, horrible human being. And I went to my boss and said, look, this is what the guy's doing and this is what's happening. And my boss was like, that doesn't make sense. And then we did but that inspired my boss to go to HR. And then we did sort of a 360 review,
Yeah.
and you could see a line in his evaluation. People who were above him thought he was great. Everybody below him and his peers, he was horrible. So they moved
Yeah.
him into a position where he was an IC, an individual contributor. Didn't
Yeah.
manage people, didn't lead people, was on a side project. And he was very, very good at that project. There was a lot of PR and that kind of thing. But they took him away from they put him in a box,
I
basically.
I don't know why people don't do that more often. Like I was dealing with this actually, and he was a shit. I mean, he just treated people like, but he was the best guy at procurement, and the superintendent was afraid to move him from that position because he just, really drove a hard bargain with suppliers and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But he just destroyed people. But I don't know why you wouldn't move someone like that out in the position and put him in charge of supplier contracts or
Supplier
something.
relations. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, let them, I'm not saying they should abuse suppliers, but let them use their skill to where they can. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, organizations cannot afford brilliant jerks. We do it all the time. We can't afford it. And you know what I think? I know this is a bit, I'm going to just, in the spirit of being a little bit provocative, I think every single person should have a recommend to a friend score. And let's just say boss, everybody should say, here's Lauren Rubis. Would you recommend him as a leader to your friend, someone you deeply cared about? Not as a popularity
Right,
contest,
right.
but cares about getting things done, cares about the organization, develops you, but whatever the criteria is.
Takes
You would
friction out of my life, makes my life
exactly,
easier, cares about
exactly.
me. I feel like I'm cared for. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't, and I'll pick the number, if you don't get over 75% recommend to a friend, you either get developed or you get replaced into an individual contributor or you're out because we can't afford billion shirts. I mean, I feel that strongly about it.
Well,
And
there are so many. So I've got one little story of this guy who had been with this company for 10 years, and he managed all of the current accounts, and the team was afraid to get rid of him because he was managing all the current accounts.
yeah, yeah,
And he was not a good human being, horrible for morale, abusive to his coworkers. He was an individual contributor, but just abusive across the board. Nobody liked working with him. And I was working with the CEO, and the CEO said, look, I'm worried about this and this and this. and these customers leaving and those things. And I said, I will call those customers before we do anything. And I called the customers and asked, how would you rate him? How would you rate his performance? How would you, and they all came back with very similar scores to what the way he was treating his peers. But no one had spent time to talk to the customers. And so it meant a lot more work for those of us who stayed. But when we left him, I terminated him because the CEO didn't want to do it. So I terminated him, and we actually grew the business in every single one of those customers because of his absence. Nature abhors a vacuum, and they filled it with deals and opportunities. And quote, we weren't going to give you guys this because this guy was still with you.
Wow.
But now that he's
Wow.
gone, we'll give you this. And so there is, as much as this person may be adding value to what you're looking at, there is more behind that that you're not seeing. You're playing the game of scarcity instead of abundance.
Yeah.
And that always is a bad thing. I'll bring it back to one sports story too. Red Bull Racing, the Formula One team,
Yeah.
what do they call the guy? The principal who was running the team had some issues with dealing with some of the women on his staff and some of those things. And they were one of the winningest teams in Formula One for the last 5-6 years. And they got rid of him. As soon the next season, he's gone. They've got a new principal, and the team is still performing very well. The team's still doing really well. But they said, look, this is who we are as an organization and a culture, and we can't tolerate this, no matter how important you are, no matter how important you think you are, no matter how much difference you've made in the organization. This behavior is not tolerable. And so we're gonna eliminate you.
Yeah, I think that's a great story. You know, back to that a little bit. I was reading this article about the San Antonio Spurs and their long-standing culture that they've had. Has been, I mean, they didn't play
Oh
very
yeah.
well against the Knicks, right? Go Knicks, but and I think Wemby needs some personal development. But anyway, that's a different story. But but I remember reading a scouting report they had of a player where they rated the player on every basketball skill that they desired and was tens out of tens. But then at the very bottom on behavior around a team member and a good team member, the one phrase was not a Spur. And they did not sign him, not a Spur. And
Wow.
because that was the higher order issue. I mean, if you knew Popovich and the way he
Oh
coaches
yeah.
and that
Coach
kind of stuff,
Pop. Yeah.
you know, and it's and it and I because they will not take a brilliant jerk
Yeah.
to win because you might win in the short run for a very short period of time, but it's not as sustainable. And you know, and I'm very worried about players and people that say I need an asshole to lead me because I can't lead myself. Like if I need you to be a hard ass on me to perform, like I want your honesty and your development and
Yeah.
care
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me. I don't want you just to be a cheerleader because I can't go for that. But I don't want you to say, well, the only reason I'm not capable or accountable because Dave wasn't hard enough on me like, I mean, I don't think that works.
Grow up.
Anyway,
Yeah. Grow up.
we
So
can't,
there's one little story to tell from a skunk works perspective. A brilliant jerk. There's this guy who has taken his Whoop, the Whoop that monitors your blood pressure, pulse rate, all those. He's one of those health monitors.
it's not what you sit on in a chair.
No, that's a Whoopee cushion. So he's taken his Whoop, tied it to his calendar, and it's in a Reddit feed, but we can link it in this. But tied it to his calendar and it looked at meetings where he was feeling stress and one-on-ones where he was feeling stress and who were the attendees in these meetings.
Oh, wow.
And so now he's got like high score for people who stress him out the most. And he's got all people who he works with ranked on this
Wow.
thing. So he's providing that kind of biofeedback in
Wow.
those meetings and those things. And I have a love-hate with that kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of nerdy and kind of fun, but it's
Yeah.
also kind of like, oh man, I wonder how much I'm stressing people out when I go to a meeting or those kind of things.
That is so cool.
It's
Well,
fascinating.
hey, I gotta say though, the quote of the podcast is I'd rather have a hole than an a-hole. And that's definitely the thing. I love you, McCauley.
Love you too,
are
Dr. Rubis.
all right. And you know what? More to come at the next podcast. We'll look for great stories and then leadership themes. We're gonna do the Dave Portnoy pizza rating.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
have fun and have happy 4th of July
Happy
and
4th, Lorne. Happy 1st and happy 4th. So
whatever. Love you, brother, and we'll
love you
talk
too.
soon. All
Love you
right.
too.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks.